Hello, my name is Jake Bullen. This is ISA 4220. We're going to be talking about POP3 and SMTP. Alright, so POP3 stands for Post Office Protocol 3. It runs in the application transport protocol. TCP port 110, unless you are using POP3S. Which is a secure version, which is in port 995. And then it transmits over TCP IP connections. There was three versions developed, POP in 1984, POP2 in 1985, and POP3 in 1988. Okay, so how is POP used? POP is used to download emails from email servers. It pulls emails to a single client and deletes a copy off the server. So, in the simplest form of this, it maintains a collection of text files, one for each email account. When the message arrives, the POP server simply appends it to the bottom of the recipient's file. When you check your email client to the POP3 server using port 110, the POP3 server requires an account name and password. Once you've logged in, the POP3 server opens the text file and it allows you to access it. Your email client then connects to the POP3 server and issues a series of commands to create copies of your email message to your local machine. Then it'll delete the message off the server unless you specify otherwise. Now, the thing regarding a POP3 is it can be good in the type of in security purposes, because once you download a message from the server, it is then deleted off the server. This can be helpful if you don't want to keep things left on your server. The downside of this is once you download it to a device, it's downloaded. It's cleared from the server, and it can only be downloaded to one device at a time. So if you're trying to access it from multiple devices, say you start downloading messages to your phone, and then later you're starting downloading messages to your laptop. Well, the problem with that is because you download it into two different places, you're kind of breaking that sequence of messages apart, and you have to go through your devices and piece the information together in order to stay organized and keep it collected together. So that is not recommended. If you're having that issue, there are other ways. With that being said, you kind of want to be able to access your information off multiple devices. So if you use an IMAP, which is an Internet Mail Access Protocol, it's a little more advanced. What it does is it helps you organize your mail into folders, and then all the folders live on the server. So when you search for things, it occurs on the server machine rather than on your own personal machine. So this makes it a lot easier for you to access your email from any machine, regardless of the machine you use, and keep track of your folders. A lot of things, so say like Microsoft Outlook, use a combination of both of them, so you can still download everything off your machines, but you still can access it through the server. If you go online to your Office 365 and click on your mail, you can still be able to access your files and everything and still download them to your machine without having to have those messages constantly cleared and be able to use them on multiple devices. So how can you harden this? Well, you can have an encryption which can be requested to be established using an STLS command, or encryption that can be established when a connection is created by using the POP3S protocol. As stated in the previous slide, that is the secure version of POP3, which uses a different port. Okay, so the SMTP, which is a simple mail transfer protocol, it operates in the TCP port 25. It allows the SMTP forwarding emails from one server to another. It can be used in conjunction with POP and IMAP. It uses send mail while allowing email clients to work with POP and IMAP to pull email from the mail servers. So basically, whenever you send in a piece of email, your email client interacts with the SMTP server to handle the sending. The SMTP servers on your host may have conversations with the other SMTP servers to deliver the email. So if you wanted to send a piece of email, let's say see my email is Joe Snuffy. So my name is Joe Snuffy, and since we use Outlook a lot with Kennesaw State, I'm going to use that in this reference. So you'll go to Outlook Express, which connects to the SMTP server at, say, mail.kennesaw.edu. Okay? And it's going to use port 25. Then Outlook is going to have a conversation with the SMTP server, telling the SMTP server the address of the sender and the address of the recipient, as well as the body of the message. The SMTP server then takes the to address, which would be Joe Snuffy at Kennesaw.edu, and breaks into two parts. So you're going to have the recipient's name, which is Joe Snuffy, and then you're going to have the domain name, which is at Kennesaw.edu. So the to address, and then the other address, it's going to put them together. What it's basically going to do is the SMTP server is basically going to hand off the message to the POP3 server. At Kennesaw, in the school's web domain, using a program called the Delivery Agent. So if a recipient is in a different domain, it's going to need the SMTP will need to communicate with that domain. So they're going to talk to. And so basically, the SMTP server is going to have a conversation with the domain name server, or the DNS. It's basically going to say, can you give me the IP address of the SMTP server for the website you're requesting, or the email. The DNS replies with one or more IP addresses of the SMTP servers that it operates. The SMTP server then connects with the SMTP server from the other site using port 25. It has the same simple text conversation that your email client that you used had with the previous SMTP server, and then it gives a message to the server that's you're sending it to, or the receiving end. The receiving end then recognizes the domain name, Joe Snuffy at Kennesaw.edu, and then hands a message to the POP3 server, which then puts it into your recipient's mailbox. If for some reason the SMTP server is not able to connect with the other server, your message goes into a queue. I know a lot of you probably have had that same issue where you're trying to send a message. Either your Wi-Fi is really bad, or you're in a static zone. Something's keeping you from making a full connection or having good signal. Your message is going to go into the queue until you can establish connection, and usually you're just going to walk away and leave it in your queue. And then when it eventually does get a connection, it'll be able to send that information off. I mean, even with game consoles have that same the same principles where it waits that connection, and sometimes things wait in this queue until it can download the rest of the packets and be able to send what you're trying to send off, and vice versa. And then typically, if it's in your queue, you'll get a message saying, "Hey, this is in your queue." It'll depending maybe after like 15 minutes or a few hours, depending on how it's set up. It'll tell you that message queue and your message was not sent or it was undeliverable because it's in your queue. I know D2L also has that feature, except it's not that great, and if your message doesn't send, I've seen it sometimes take a few days to even tell you that your message had a problem and it's still not sending, and that can be very frustrating due to the fact that you whatever you needed to be sent out probably did need to be waited 3 or 4 days before getting a message that your message wasn't delivered. So that can be kind of aggravating. So my recommendation is, if when setting the stuff up, if it doesn't send within like 5 minutes, let it send you a message saying, "Hey, this is in your queue, it didn't send." And if it still can't send within maybe an hour or two, put it make it say another message where, "Hey, we failed to send again." So that way you can take a look at it and see what's going on, see if there's another thing you can do, or maybe you type something in wrong. I don't know. Just to make things more efficient so you don't have like that same problem. Cool thing about the SMTP server is it understands very simple commands. Some of the commands are like HELO, HELO, which is like introduce yourself, EHLO, introduce yourself in the request send mode. Mail from specifies the sender, RCPT2 specifies the recipient, data specifies the body of the message, to, from, subject should include the first of 3 lines. RSET is reset, quit, obviously quits the session, and if you need help, you can type help in to get the commands. VRFI is the verify an address, and the EXPN is expand the address, and then VRB is a verbose. So the commands are really simple, around 4 characters to enter to get a response. The way to harden this is use SSL certificates from verified certificate authorities. It's really important that you use those, and then reject bad connections or spam by requiring the use of help or EHLO commands, which is basically, if someone's trying to send you something, the EHLO command will say to introduce yourself and request an extended mode. So it's going to go into asking to verify basically what's on the other end of this, and you can also make those. You can also make all that encrypted. Encryption is a really big piece. Always encrypt what you can. You can you can go through that using these other steps. You can also use authentication techniques to harden your SMTP. So how you're going to do that is you're going to go to IIS Manager, you're going to right-click the SMTP server, and you're going to go to Properties. From Properties, you're going to go Access Authentication, and then restrict the access. So the more levels of authentication that you have, it's going to help make your stuff more secure, and make it more difficult for attackers to be able to get through your defense, your networking system. Alright, so that's what I have on SMTP and POP3 and IMAP. Hope you have a great semester.